Good morning. The old man here, 12/17/2024. This is the last part of my series on my thesis, if you will. I hope I can make this make sense at the end of the day. Actually, putting this all together has been draining my brain. I'd like to move on from here and talk more about gold, silver, and other things. Let me start out by saying the Great Reset, I believe, is already upon us. The United States will probably be the last one to feel its real effects, mostly because we are the money reserve or dollar reserve, if you will. Other countries are already collapsing. Countries like Germany, of course, they're in really bad shape. They call it a recession, and honestly, I think you'll find in the future that it was really a depression. Countries like South Korea, here a while back, I'm not sure why I'm going to do some more research on that, but they felt it was necessary to go into martial law. There must have been a lot of civil unrest. I don't think too much is coming out of that country right now as far as info goes, but I'm going to dive into that some more. Russia pulled out of Syria. They said that the Syrian government and troops basically gave up. Well, I don't believe that, not for a minute. Those people have been fighting for years. They're fighting for their country, and they're not just going to give up like that. That doesn't make sense, and anytime something doesn't make sense, there's more behind the story than we know. Many other countries like China, their bond market is collapsing. Their whole the yuan is collapsing, and to prop up the yuan, they have to sell dollars or their dollar U.S. government bonds, the other tier one asset, to prop up their currency. A lot of talking heads are saying that it's revenge for Donald Trump's talking tariffs and that they're de-dollarizing even faster. The fact of the matter is, it used to be the dollar was the only tier one asset. Gold was like a tier 3 or tier 4 asset. So countries and central banks weren't holding gold. It's a pain in the ass. You've got to pay storage fees. Whether you do that indirectly with, let's say, Brinks, or you do it directly and you have your own troops protect your gold, either way, it's costing you money. So they don't like to do that. They'd rather buy bonds. As long as they had faith in the U.S. economy, they were buying bonds, and that bonds were stable, or appeared to be stable, let's say. We all know they're not stable. Anything's a derivative of the dollar is not stable. But let's say, if nothing else, it was more stable than their currency, so therefore they bought bonds, and they did not buy gold. Well, we've seen a big shift in that in the last even 10 years, 20 years. They've slowly moved towards gold over the last 20 years, and actually gold hasn't been reclassified as a tier 1 asset. I think that was done in 2022. And now, instead of buying U.S. government bonds, countries are buying gold instead. Central banks are buying gold. Countries are stacking gold as well. They're repatriating gold where they might have had it on loan to the Bank of England or the New York Stock Exchange or whatever. They're repatriating and bringing that gold back home. Back to the old adage: if you don't hold it, you don't own it. One of them things. So with all of that being said, Donald Trump and the Patriots have a little more time, but they see it coming. They know what's coming, and they're making their moves. They're way ahead of the game. The interesting thing is Trump has not said anything that I'm aware of about gold, but yet he's putting in cabinet members that are pro-gold. So that ought to tell you something. You ought to read the handwriting on the wall. And that's a lot of what this is. He can't just come right, not at this time, he cannot come right out and spell it out for you. You got to be able to see the future. And if you can't see the future, you need to do more research. It's out there. If with enough research, you start to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. It's just like if you're putting together a big jigsaw puzzle and there's 10,000 pieces, at first it's total chaos until you start looking at the pieces closer and start putting things together. And as you put things together, it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. Like I said, in the past, I've paid attention for a long time. However, I've seen all the pieces. The puzzle wasn't coming together for the longest time. And I think over the last year and a half, since I bought my first gold and silver, the pieces of the puzzle are coming together, and everything's becoming clearer and clearer. The other thing that I want to bring to everybody's attention, and to tell you the truth, I mostly got out of Bitcoin thinking that it was much like a tech stock, that it was going to go to zero or near zero, whatever, and that I would buy in at a later date. But honestly, now that I think about it and put more of the pieces together, I think gold and silver should be your base, of course. And when it becomes a little more speculative, or you're ready for that point, I would recommend you looking at gold, or Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a technology of the future. There's no doubt about the blockchain. The blockchain is truth, and that's what we're trying to get to, is the truth. Everything we've known about money is a lie. When I say that, it's the fiat dollar, not money. Money is gold and silver, of which is God's money, and everything else is a lie. The dollar has been manipulated forever, and since they created the Federal Central Bank back in 1913. So everything since then has been a lie, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. All fiat currencies will come to an end. They're man-made, and man-made, it automatically has corruption built in, and the corruption is exploited more and more and more and more until the only thing left is faith in the dollar. And honestly, I think there's very little faith left in the dollar. Truth is, there's not been any growth in the dollar for years, and so people have to go farther and farther out on the risk curve to realize any kind of gains at all. And again, if your only gains are in the dollar, is it real? I don't think it is. I think I've shown, at least my thought processes on, they keep making the numerical dollar, or the numerical figure, go up and up and up, but that's all through manipulation, making you think you're richer, but at the end of the day, it's a digit on the screen. They keep increasing the digits, but that doesn't mean you're richer. The fact of the matter is, I think fiat across the world is coming to an end, and therefore the Great Reset. Like I said, other countries are really going to feel it first, but it is coming home. And like I said in the last video, honestly, for there to be real change, the WEF, they need a total collapse of the system as we know it today, and start over with their socialist I can't think of the name of the program, but Klaus Schwab's capitalist socialism at any rate, whatever, you got it. You get my point. But the other side of that same coin is Trump and the Patriots are going to counter that. In fact, they are countering that right now. You see Trump mentioning Bitcoin, and again, he can't spell it out for you, not at this time. In the future, he will spell out, he'll have to spell out the future and make everybody realize it and see it. If we would have had the continuance of the Biden-Kenyan, if you will, Harris administration for another term, we would feel it just as much as everybody else. It's a totalitarian system. They want total control. The central banks of the world, world money, you know, the big families, and you know who I'm talking about, the Rothschilds and such. You know, it's their way of taking control to the next level. Stakeholder capitalism, that's what I was trying to say. But we're going to counter that, and so many people, you listen to the talking heads, you know, they've been in the industry of making money for 20, 30, 40 years, and they still can't see it. And the reason they can't see what's in front of them, they're saying that there's no way that, you know, Trump, anything Trump's doing is going to make sense or is going to work. It can't. It's inflationary, blah, 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 all kinds of bullshit. You know, the fact of the matter is it can work. Take gold, Bitcoin, for instance. You know, what does Bitcoin have to do with the time of day? Well, you think Brick's been working on the unit, and honestly, at the end of the day, it would have a very tough road to hoe, and the reason is nobody trusts the other countries. The individual countries that are involved in the BRICS don't trust each other. So without trust, you have nothing. So I don't ever see that going anywhere. It's a great idea, whatever. I think it's gone as far as it's ever going to go, mostly because those countries are collapsing as we speak. Anything and everything, it seems like, that I've seen that went woke is going broke. And that's the thing. That's where we're at. And Trump's talking about Bitcoin. And again, he's not spelling it out for you, but my idea is that that Bitcoin will never be a currency. And that's the thing that so many people will point out to you. Oh, Bitcoin will never be a currency. Yeah, okay, I agree. Well, what if it's a settlement currency amongst countries in the future? And if the United States leads that into the future, whoever basically sets the rules or sets the rules. And other countries are already looking at, you know, they're trying to front run, and they won't be able to front run the U.S. because the U.S. has already got a good handle on it. All we got to get Trump is inaugurated and look the fuck out is all I got to say. Once he's inaugurated, I mean, this guy's hitting the road running right now. He's got everything that needs to be in place. Basically, he's going to call on the American public that anything or anybody that stands in our way needs to have their damn phone or their emails blown up. And I mean, and I'm talking politicians, they need to have their emails just, when I say blown up, what I mean by that is just like getting way too many phone calls that they can't handle, getting way too many emails they can't handle, letting them know that we're not going to put up with the status quo, that this bullshit is done. And if you want socialism, you can go to another country. You're either going to play ball or you're going to get run out, at least out of your office. And you'll see a lot of recalls. You'll see a lot of people quitting because they believe in the stakeholders' capitalism, and they were promised an awful lot. And at the end of the day, it's not going to happen. And they're going to get run off with Trump having the House, the Senate, the House and the Senate and the Supreme Court. Oh my God. That means we can go back and get rid of things like the Federal Reserve. I think he might need to use the Federal Reserve to crush other central banks. But the day is coming, our Federal Reserve will have to go as well. We need to get back to sound money. Sound money being gold and silver, mostly gold, actually. I think states will need to have gold as their base. Silver will be for everyday transactions, and even copper, I think. We'll go back to having silver and copper in our coinage. And when this is all said and done, ain't nobody going to want nothing to do with the paper note. Nothing to do with that at all. I think the days of the dollar, the paper dollar is done. It's coming to an end. But with that being said, I think you'll see places like Texas start first. What they're trying to do is start and they will do it. They'll probably be one of the first to do it. But to have a depository where it's at first funded by the state of Texas, but you'll be able to deposit, let's say, an ounce of gold in that depository, and then spend off that ounce of gold with a credit card. Making transitions really just as simple as they are today, but without a central bank being involved. Therefore, they can't shut off your money supply. You hear so much about coin shops being, their bank accounts being closed, with the guys saying that, well, how do we prove that you're not laundering money? Well, the fact of the matter is the federal government's been laundering money for years. That's what all these offshore accounts are all about, and they don't want competition. And the fact of the matter is they want every dollar they can get out of you in tax. And when you're transacting person to person with a dollar and you're not involved in the feds, you're cheating them out of tax, and they don't like that. Especially when they want to spend more and more and more. The other thing I'd like to talk about today, too, is Trump getting rid of the federal income tax and how powerful that is. You just don't even have a clue how powerful that is. We can make up, number one, the federal government has one duty, and that is to make coinage. And actually two duties: make coinage, gold and silver coins, in other words, and then to protect its borders, to have a military to protect us from invaders or invasion. That is not for us to be the police of the world. That is not our place. Think about when you bring that many men back home, how much they can produce from now on. We need to be a country of producers. For so long, we've been just a country of words escaping me, but it'll come back to me. Just a country of consumers. There's the word I'm looking for. Just a country of consumers. We consume, but our hands have been tied so much and they steal so much from us that we can't become producers. And I think the difference is everybody's a consumer at some point, but you should be able to earn enough money, real money, gold and silver, that you can have a savings. And with that savings, you become a producer. In other words, you're producing more than you consume. And again, going back to generational wealth, you can pass that on, but not only that, can you pass that on, but that also makes the country richer. If you've got people that are making in excess of what they consume and they save in gold and silver, just think of how much gold and silver that brings to this country. The demand will be there. to produce more coinage, and the federal government will have to buy coin or buy silver and gold from other countries in whatever fashion that is, to make coinage, and then we can save that coinage. And, in some cases, people can't, or they don't feel comfortable storing that gold and silver, and maybe they need Brinks to, in one of their vaults to store that for them. Fine. We can't all have it at home. In fact, it gets to a point where it makes you rather nervous of what all you do have in possession. So at some point, you need to be able to put that in a depository. And maybe the state, like I said, the states have their own depositories each, and with that, they can you can spend off of your whatever you put in your savings account. Let's say with an ounce of gold. Let's say you buy an ounce of gold through them. Not to say you send them an ounce of gold, but you buy an ounce of gold through them. They acquire that ounce of gold, and then you can spend off that ounce of gold as you go. But you always want to, leave more behind than you take. But at the end of the day, it makes a lot more sense than everything is debt and spending more than you make. And for the last, 50 years or whatever, since the credit has become so blown up, they're stealing more and more and more from you, so they need to let you or make it credit more and more available. Back in the day, when you were getting a car loan, you're lucky to get a 3-year car loan. Well, it got to the point where people couldn't afford the car payment on a 3-year car loan, so they expanded it to 5. And it got to the point where you couldn't do it on 5. You couldn't afford a new vehicle on 5. You had to go to 7. Where are they going next? Without a reset, it's going to go to 10. I mean, my God, most of these vehicles are in the boneyard by 10 years. So in other words, you get rid of your car at 10 years old, it's junk. It ain't worth nothing, but yet you still carry a note on it. And then you carry that note over to the next vehicle. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that where people are upside down in a vehicle, trade it off, and then they roll the loan over. Just getting more and more in debt. But at any rate, one other thing I'll say, or at least that I can think of at the moment, is stable coins also. I would highly recommend, I'm not recommending to buy Bitcoin, I'm recommending investigating Bitcoin more than, and I have done that lately, and I'm starting to see good things. And with the relationship that Trump doesn't say anything without there being a meaning behind it. He's not trying to mislead you. And again, he's just the face. The movement is the Patriots, honestly. But he's not trying to mislead you like most politicians are trying to mislead you and misdirect you to fleece more from you. He's actually trying to point you in the right direction without spelling it out at the moment. It's coming, but not yet. And whoever can get in front of that, will actually profit from that greatly. I think there will be a time that Bitcoin will be used by governments across the world. And like I said, a lot of governments are already starting to look at it since Trump's even mentioned it. No loan made it official. He hasn't made it official yet. But they're already looking at it thinking, oh my God, we got to get in. Well, there's your point of adoption. That is what the Bitcoin people have been waiting for, is a total adoption of the Bitcoin. And then where does the price go? It could be astronomical. But with that being said, you still got to use a lot of caution. The other thing I'll recommend that you look into is stable coins. What I didn't realize until a video I heard a day or two ago, I think it was the Economic Ninja, but not sure. I listen to so many videos. But at any rate, I think from a real reliable source that every Bitcoin transaction has to go through a stable coin. In other words, you take your dollar, you're trading that for a stable coin, and then a stable coin is traded for Bitcoin. It's not a direct dollar to Bitcoin. You've got to go through a stable coin. And with that being said, I've heard that there's also a law being passed that in order for a stable coin to be legal, that it's going to have to have U.S. government bonds as the base. And where most other bond markets are crashing, our bond market is starting to take off. You can see a lot of money going into it. And there's many factors. Not just that one, but there's many factors why there's a lot of money going into the bond market. Another factor is that most of the smart money sees that the stock market is way overvalued, and there's going to have to be a correction at some point. But getting back to the income tax and how huge that is, I think I got sidetracked from that. But the federal income tax, why that, getting away from a federal income tax and using tariffs, why that is so huge. If you think about it, in the past industrial revolution, and this will be another industrial revolution like you've never seen, it'll make the last one just look like a little pimple on an elephant's ass. It's going to be huge. But the reason I say that is when you do that and you've got people living in other countries, and I'll just pick on Britain for a minute, because I happen to know that they're really trying to tax their people to death. And I'm sure most of your European countries are doing the same thing. That those people with money, if they have the choice to get out and go somewhere where there is no federal income tax or no income tax, and they can take their money and industry and bring it here, oh my God, that's a fucking game changer. That is a game changer. Right now, if you're an American citizen, no matter where you go in the world to work or make money or build an industry, you owe federal income tax, which is bullshit. Why do you owe the feds anything? Why do I owe the feds anything? It just doesn't make sense. They are not doing nothing for us. They are making a fake currency that we need to pay them 2% a year on our inflation and whatever else, and all the other corruption that they've created. But you think of all the people in the world that in their country where they're being dictated, even in the West, all the Western countries are basically going belly up. Their fiat currency is failing fast. But even the countries in the East are too. China's in really bad shape. The talking heads will tell you different, but the reality is they're in really bad shape. Their housing collapsed a few years ago, and their housing is where most people put their money. And when that collapsed, people have switched from housing to gold, and the individuals buying as much gold right now as they can. And in fact, China's even encouraging it just to get more and more gold into the country. At the end of the day, when the fiat dollar is gone, ye who holds the most gold makes the rules, and they want to be part of that game. So that's where that's all going. But can imagine the people of the world where the dictators that they live under now, and that, I mean, even Canada, how many people in Canada, and you say that's not a dictatorship? Bullshit. That's countries being run by the woke. And until that changes, that's a dictatorship. They don't have the freedom of speech. They don't hardly have the freedom of movement, for Christ's sakes. But if you have the opportunity to take your money and move it to the U.S. and not pay any federal income tax and do great things with it, build things, and that's where it's at. Can you imagine the money that and the money and the talent that pours into this country? And you can even turn to, all these illegal immigrants. You say, well, what are we going to do with the illegal immigrants? I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to vet them, first of all, and those that are criminals need to go back to the country of origin, and we should be more than happy to either fly them back or ship them back, whatever it takes. But those that are here for good reason and are willing to assimilate, like we did in the last Industrial Revolution, we brought a lot of immigrants to this country due to a favorable economy where you could make a difference. Let's say those people, of which are mostly, most have said fighting age. Well, how about their working age? Okay, this country right now is kind of upside down, where we've got a lot more people over 55, or we got more people over 55 than we do under 55. And therefore, our ability to build and grow is getting lesser all the time. And the reason we're upside down like that is because of how much wealth is being stolen from you. People can barely afford to have 1 or 2 or 3 kids. What about your wealth stays with you and you can accumulate wealth and you can still afford to have kids? Wouldn't that be awesome? And we can grow our way out of that in that way, as well as monetarily, where a lot of money is going to come to this country. You go back to the law and order, where you have none in any other country, and the only safe haven is the United States. Oh my God, it'll be crazy. It'll just be crazy. That's where I'm thinking so positive of what's to come. Yeah, we got to go through a lot of change. And again, the talking heads will tell you, well, Trump can't do it, Trump can't do it, Trump can't do it. Well, the reality of it is he showed you during COVID where he can take, and this happened during World War II as well. We took automobile manufacturers. Let's see, we don't need so damn many automobiles. We just need some automobiles. We don't need that many to build this new revolution, but instead we need clothing to come back here. We need to make appliances here and whatever else. You don't think General Motors can't retool? You don't think Chrysler can't retool? You don't think even any industry that you can think of that's making a certain product today, you don't think they can't retool? We can retool them in a heartbeat. You don't need to build a building. The buildings are already there. How many buildings are barely being used now? Where manufacturing is so efficient that a building that was built 20 years ago, they're only using a quarter of it now. How about we fill them buildings back up with manufacturing again and bring it back here, bring it all back here. And talking about, mining and materials and that, we're going to need precious metals and what have you. Yeah, we do. Well, number one, you take the restrictions off all the miners to where their hands are tied and they can't even get a permit for years. How about you give them a permit in a couple months, a week, whatever. Get them a goddamn permit. Get this thing going. Let's rock. There's so many mines sitting idle that at this time it doesn't, because there's so much government regulation in the way, that it's not profitable. How about we get all that bullshit out of the way and we make that mine profitable, and you take investors, pour a bunch of money in there. Investors from all over the world, actually, they're going to come here. There's no doubt about it. And they come here and they put money into those mines and they start bringing out materials. Not only that, Russia has got a lot of materials that, that when their economy crashes, they'll be willing to sell really inexpensively. But I would say that instead of taking advantage of those countries, you incentivize them to build their own and to get away from the dictatorships that they have today and get to something more like we got in the Constitution. We need more countries not to just be capitalist, but we need them to be, and they'll want it. That's the big thing, is they'll want After they can see after they see what we can do, they're going to want. If they can't come here because we're going to be jam-packed full of people at some point. And just think how, when we're jam-packed full of people, how all industry booms, from housing to farms and everything. It'll be just crazy. You'll have, you may have, and this is, I know, a wild thought that I haven't heard anybody else say, but you'll have countries like South America wanting to become a United States. Okay, I can actually see the expansion of the United States, not by force, but they'll come to us and say, hey, we want to be a state. We want to be like you. You know, we want to be governed by you. We want to be, or like you, not by you, but like you. We want a constitution, and we want the prosperity that you're seeing. And this is what we're bringing to the table. You know, we're going to bring a lot of hard workers to the table. We're going to bring, let's say, gold and silver to the table, or we got lots of, in some cases, the countries of South America have lots of pasture land and that they can bring grain to America. They can bring, or to the plate or to the table, and just be one big industry. And believe it or not, I'm also thinking that at some point, the people of Canada will want the same. They'll want to become a part of the states, because no matter what, without that constitution, these folks are going to hold on as long as they can. They're not going to want to let go. And eventually, they'll be overrun one way or another by their people. And when you see how great, just to the, like Canada, just to the south of them, how great industry is and how much money can be made by an honest system and law and order, and just how great it is, you're going to want to be a part of that. And so you're either going to change your government or you're going to become part of the United States. And it's the only real way to prosper, to the point I think we're going to prosper, is they will want to be and actually become part of the United States. That doesn't, I don't say we need to do that or want to do that by force. We don't want to occupy a government or a country and place. And that, in the past, that's what we've done. When we didn't like somebody and what they were doing, we went in and changed the government, by force. And that just never works. It never works. The people got to want it. And again, when you talk about making America great again, and you go back to the Industrial Revolution and those times, oh my God! And now you bring that forward to today. Think of the brilliant minds and the brilliant minds that'll come to this country because of the dictators of their countries, and think of the hard-working folks that'll come to this country that want a better life. In fact, we'll have to build borders if they don't become part of the states, we'll have to have a border wall on the top and the bottom just to keep them all out, because so many people are going to want to flood the United States, and you won't be able to keep them out unless you do that. So rather than, I think, building a border wall, of which I understand what Trump was talking about, I totally do, but instead of building a wall, invite them in. Say, yeah, sure, come on in. Be a part of the United States. You stay where you're at. Let's do something different. Let's build your government, sure, but let's let it be under the Constitution and have honest money, God's money. Tell you the truth, I was a little nervous bringing this together tonight or this morning. I wasn't sure I could make it make sense, but it just seemed to just flow once I got started. In the future, I'll be talking more about gold and silver, not so much my thesis, but kind of keeping you informed on what I see going on in the world, because there's going to be a lot of changes. And we need to embrace change. I know most people are afraid of change, but we need to embrace change. And I also know through analytics and YouTube that a lot of in fact, the majority of my watchers are my age and or older, or at least right about my age. And I'm going to invite you to to want change and to look at change. And when I say that, I know so many guys my age that just say, "Oh no, I don't want a new cell phone. I don't get it. You know, I want a flip phone, whatever." Dude, embrace change. Come to the 21st century. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for your family. You're going to leave them out in the dark if you don't. That's the thing. Look into all these new things and see where it's going. Are you going to understand it at first? Nope. No, you're not. But if you're my age and you're retired, what else you got to do? Instead of watching a boob tube and drinking beer, why not sit up and watch videos and do research and pass them what you know on to your family? And I think it's your duty as a man to come into the 21st century and help be a leader, help be a producer. Let's produce more than we can consume, and let's make America great again. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye.